everybody. Welcome to Mortal Fury. I'm Dean.
I'm Chris.
Glad you joined us this week. And Chris and I had pleasure. My father came down here this morning. He just left a few moments ago, and really appreciate that visit. I love my dad, love my mom. Thank you guys so much for what you taught me. And it was just great seeing you this morning. You brought donuts.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that.
Dropped in on us. We had a little coffee, had a little chat, and yeah, it was a beautiful time. So I really appreciate that. It got us talking about God's love, God's grace. My dad was one that always focused on that. I can remember as a child. He definitely, him and mom both, focused on God's love for us and his grace toward us. And I really appreciate that. Learned a lot and still learning from him today. And so that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all
He's, I
say there.
obviously met him through you. I don't know how far back, but we went to some conferences. Didn't we go to, your dad went to conferences, didn't he? Mm-hmm. That we went to and stuff. So I've known him for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. And then he knew my wife before I did because y'all went to church together.
Right.
But Danny is, at his core, he is an encourager.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it with love.
Yeah.
He always has. As long as I've known this guy, he gives me a big hug. He tells me he loves me. And it's very genuine and very sincere. So does your mom, Linda. She does the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I so appreciate Danny and Linda. And it's always a treat whenever he stops by and we get a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And the journey, like you said, you mentioned church and different things. And for those of you who don't know, and Chris and I both, we both grew up in loving families. We grew up going to church, like so many of you. Grow up in a religious system, a certain denomination within Christianity, or whatever, however you grew up. And that was my that's how I grew up. Also, it's how my parents grew up. And so we're all on this journey. And wherever you're at, wherever my parents were and your parents were at as they were teaching us, and wherever you're at now, or wherever your parents were, your training was, God's got you right there. You said that earlier in our talk. Yeah. God has us in these certain places.
Right.
And along the way, of course, we are, as you come on to different truth or new truth or things we haven't learned from the scriptures or things we didn't know, it's going to be real challenging within those systems. Right. Obviously. But throughout that, what I appreciate so much about my relationship with my parents, that love and that was always there. There was always this underlying thing, even though none of us saw, like I said, we're learning all the time.
Exactly.
New revelations, new realizations are coming. So it's
progressive.
Yeah. It's beautiful to be able to share those things. And you brought up too, saying we try to say on the show, there's no fear into looking at things. Right. Sometimes things, like I said, Chris and I are talking about things definitely are going to be new to a lot of ears out there if you're new to the show. But there's no fear in that. You can follow it out. Mm-hmm. Don't take our word for anything. Check it out for yourself, obviously. So, hey, day before I was reading something here from this D. Buchanan. I'm not sure who this is, but it's titled Love's Goal. I think I'll just read that. All that love is, God is, for God is love. As the negative side of love is unselfish, seeketh not her own, so her positive side is concern for others, a deep, ardent, all-consuming concern, dauntless, self-sacrificing, invincible. Love never fails. Such is the divine essence, and this it is that is imparted to the creature. Slide in there.
Yeah. Dauntless, self-sacrifice.
Yeah, there's these words. Yeah, it's really... Okay, there can be no self-complacency with God. Neither could he provide a self-satisfied salvation. Divine joy is in the fullness of love, and love is all-embracing. To speak of a happy shepherd with an incomplete flock, or even a happy flock with comrades missing, would be to malign both sheep and shepherd. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and that's such a prevalent message.
Yeah, we think everything's going to be completed.
Yeah.
And all is going to return back to God. And we're going through this for a specific reason, to eventually get to know his great love for us.
Yeah.
That's what he's leading all his creation towards.
Right. The happy shepherd with an incomplete flock. Well, what do we have to draw upon? Well, how about the parable that says he leaves the 99 to go look for the one?
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to lose anybody.
Mm-mm. Oh, no. No way. Heaven's joys will be full only when sin's sorrows cease. Yeah, that's
huge.
it is. I had some sorrows this week.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's all good. It's all for reasons, beyond what we can fully see right now. We just glimpse certain things. But sometimes when you're broken down, that can still be some of the best times of joy and realization that the Father, the God that is love, is going to make it all right. And he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Even though we at times, we don't, perhaps like all of you, we don't necessarily, we want things to go a certain way.
Yeah.
And
when it doesn't go that way, that feels incomplete to us.
Right. And relatively speaking and practically speaking,
yeah.
It is. Things here are incomplete, and we're subject to vanity and evil and all those things. So, "'Tis of mine will be the yearning cry of the good shepherd's spirit in the bosom of both saint and savior, until the last of all the lost has been gathered home." Yeah. That's, why not?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And like I said, on our show and so many other shows out there, you can find so many scriptures that say the very thing. Nothing's going to be lost. All right. "Love cannot omit. His sole travail was for all. Neither can love abandon or forget. His purpose, as his promise, is until he find it." That's what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
"Thus it is that he is yet to see the travail of his soul and be satisfied. And surely we too shall be satisfied when conformed to this likeness. Oh, the fullness of heaven's joy when sin's sorrows shall have ceased." Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. That's so interesting. The end of that part of the book I was reading this week talked about the immortality that the members of the saints put on. And at this point, we're at the dais of Christ. And immortality, because it is no longer connected with death, knows nothing of sin or shame. So this fullness that he's talking about has to do with our immortality, because then there is no connection with death, which means there's no connection with sin and shame. So that is joy in a way we can't comprehend here, because we're mortal.
Mm-hmm.
And that immortality is enormous. It's not just that we're beyond the reaches of death. There are some other things that we're going to experience because of our immortality. Yeah. That's really, really interesting. So
there, love's goal. All right, why don't we just transition into, Chris is going to read from the love chapter.
The love chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13.
Everybody's familiar with that.
Everybody knows. This is almost every wedding that you go to, you're going to have references to this chapter. And I'm not saying it's not a bad chapter, to go look at that time and stuff. But oftentimes it's used and people kind of frame it like, oh, this is that always hear it at a wedding. Right. And you think of it in those terms. When Dean just read this, in the very first couple of lines, it says, God is love.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. I'm going to read just a section of this and see if you hear anything different. If I should have all faith so as to transport mountains, yet have no God, I am nothing. And if ever I should be morsling out all my possessions, and if I should be giving up my body that I should be boasting, yet have no God, in nothing do I benefit. God is patient, is kind. God is not jealous. God is not bragging. He is not puffed up. He is not indecent. He is not self-seeking. He is not incensed. He is not taking account of evil. He is not rejoicing in injustice, yet is rejoicing together with the truth, is foregoing all, is believing all, is expecting all, and enduring all.
God never fails.
No.
Love never.
Yeah, that's beautiful. God never fails. He never does.
Right.
And yet, so much of the message today in our institutions, it does sound like he fails.
Mm-hmm.
When some of the sheep, when we have an incomplete flock, and we don't understand the finished work at the cross.
That's so beautiful. Hopefully, yeah, take that in. Obviously, Chris read and changed.
Wherever love was, I
said
placed God.
Right. So he's taken liberty there. And the scripture, says love. And of course, he put God in there because God is love. But it's a different take that we want you to, perhaps to think about that. So you don't, get caught up in thinking about, oh, well, this is what I need. This is how I have to behave.
Right.
Or something. And think of it in terms of, well, God is love. This is what God is.
This is the relationship we have with the Savior.
Is.
Yeah.
And even in a world full of evil and all these things, he created it. Mm-hmm. He knows what he's doing. He's got a plan. It's rough now.
Yeah.
Because we're subject to death. That's, a great enemy there.
Yeah.
But he knows what he's doing. He's got a plan. And he's going to bring it all together, and he's not going to lose anything. That's love's goal,
That's right.
So
be pursuing God.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. So hopefully that's a neat quote. Maybe a couple quotes we could leave.
Yeah.
This is from Andre Schneider.
Okay.
All right. Everything that I currently believe was new to me at some point before now.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right. Everything we currently believe, everything you currently believe, at some point, it was, you come to these new realizations, new truths, new, before this time that we believe it. So if any of these things on our show are new, to you, just keep seeking it out, keep seeking out the scriptures and find out for yourself. Like I said, there's no fear in learning new things. Had another quote here. Maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate. That's
from the American poet.
Yeah.
Well, no, not American. The English poet, Ozzy Osbourne. We can get love anywhere. This week I was reading one of Clyde's email goodies, and I think it was E.W. Bullinger, but and of course I have to paraphrase, but he says, we cannot improve our standing with God. We can more fully understand it. Mm-hmm. We can grow in it. We can enjoy it or revel in it, but we can't improve our standing. Now, what does that tell you about the perfect love that is being lavished on us? We can't improve on it. Mm-hmm. It's like there's nothing to add to a complete work.
That's right.
You can't add to complete. So
beautiful. All right.
Love you all.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in, and have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.